a wonderful new year from NTR TV. We are really excited and thrilled to welcome you in 2021. But we don't want to leave 2020 analysis. That's why I'm bringing you one of the best experts in Turkey, Mustafa Efe, the president of African Strategic Studies Center. He is with us today, and I will go through many different programs with Mustafa. Mustafa, welcome to NTR.
Thank you very much, Mr. Salai, and it is good to see you in the new year.
Thank you. So excited to have you.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, we arranged a great flow of different videos with our colleagues at TRT World. What we will do, we have 12 different videos analyzing the entire 2020 with our expert, Mustafa Efe. As you all know him very well. We will actually go through each video and then get his beautiful analysis and then move to the next one. I know this year was very tough for all of you. And COVID-19 pandemic is something that we really went through a harsh difficulties, but there's good and bad side of everything. And I'm really excited that for Africa, COVID-19 actually in Africa has been spared, and the worst of the COVID-19 pandemic did not touch compared to United States, compared to USA, even compared to China, where it actually originally started. So let me show you a video from TRT World about the COVID-19 analysis in Africa, and then we'll get to our expert, Mustafa Efe. Shall we?
Wide-scale testing, a strict lockdown, and field hospitals. These are some of the steps the South African government took as it went on the offensive against COVID-19 in April. Authorities say these interventions contributed to the country's early success in containing the spread of COVID-19. But the economy took an intense beating. At the end of July, the government loosened its shutdown measures to allow the economy to recover. But infections went up. Public hospitals quickly ran out of beds, and doctors and nurses suffered from emotional and mental fatigue. Bodies piled up in morgues and funeral parlors were at capacity. Clinics couldn't cope. In Limpopo province, grief filled the air. The Letole family buried their son Shonisani. He died at age 35 inside a COVID-19 treatment center. The family blames the government for his death and is suing health authorities for neglect.
One can't really say that had he been treated a certain way, he would have been still here. But the treatment is just so inhumane, so insensitive, so absent of just like a human quality.
In Kenya, too, families are in pain. In late March, to limit the spread of COVID-19, the government introduced a dusk-to-dawn curfew. What followed, communities say, was weeks of terror. Security forces threw tear gas into crowds, beat many people, and shot others. According to Kenya's Independent Policing Oversight Authority, at least 15 people were killed during the first 9 weeks of the curfew. Kenyans were outraged and took to the streets.
We are sick and tired of the police brutality. We want justice for everyone. We just want justice. There's no need of violence. Nobody needs to be killed. Nobody needs to be beaten.
When the novel coronavirus started spreading around the world, scientists worried that more than any other region, the virus would devastate Africa. That's because the continent generally has weak public health systems. But their fears have not been realized. Africa is home to 17% of the world's population, but it's reported just 3% of its infections. Scientists say that's partly because of the continent's young population, because the elderly tend to have underlying health conditions and are the ones most at risk. Africa has also defied expectations in other ways. Few thought the pandemic would present an opportunity for its people to shine through innovation. But Senegal led the way by producing a quick, reliable, and affordable testing kit. It costs $1 and gives results in 10 minutes. And Senegal wasn't alone. Across the continent, people used their ingenuity to come up with all manner of solutions. Epidemiologists say the continent's experience in dealing with illnesses such as malaria, HIV and AIDS, and Ebola came in handy, that in many cases the expertise and medical systems developed in response to those public health crises enabled a more effective response to COVID-19. But not everyone was pulling in the same direction. Madagascar chose a different route. The government promoted an herbal tonic against advice from researchers to not use untested remedies. President Andry Rajoelina told his citizens to drink it to prevent contracting the virus. But the concoction did not stop infections. In Tanzania, President John Magufuli said the threats from the coronavirus were exaggerated. In June, he declared the country free of the virus and said it had been eliminated through prayer. But the numbers continue to go up across Africa. Egypt, which recorded the first case on the continent back in February, is now seeing another spike. To manage the situation, the Egyptian government is getting a vaccine from China. It has already received batches of the Sinopharm vaccine and will begin inoculating people this month. Even though the drug has not yet completed large-scale trials to prove it's safe and effective, the Egyptians are pushing forward. There's been a lot of discussion throughout the continent about getting vaccines. Rich countries, including the US, the UK, and Canada, have been buying up hundreds of millions of doses. Many Africans are worried it will be years before the vaccinations are available to them. Dr. Nsenga Ngoy is with the World Health Organization. He says that while African countries wait for the vaccines, they should be preparing to distribute them and educate their people.
How do we prepare our population to get the vaccine? We are in the world of misinformation, or what some call infodemic. So we need at this point to make sure that we are talking to our communities and we are telling them honestly what is happening and why we need this vaccination and what will happen in terms of the introduction to the vaccine.
Africa has some of the lowest infection rates in the world, but countries like South Africa are already seeing a second spike in cases. This has raised concerns that other countries will soon follow suit. Nsepeng Motema, TRT World, in Johannesburg.
So we have seen that Africa has been spared the worst of COVID-19 pandemic. Let's get to our expert, Mustafa Efe. Mustafa, as our colleagues at TRT World talked about, Africa has been spared from COVID-19 pandemic. As African Strategic Center, why do you think that happened?
You see, because yes, Africa has come, but at the same time, the lowest COVID-19 infection rates in the world.
Exactly.
And but countries like South Africa, for example, most mobile country, most mobile person are living in the country, and that is you see seeing that the cases are spiking actually really
that is
there.
True. That is true.
But when COVID-19 initially blazed through the Asia and even the Europe, etc., and also United States, obviously, that all the global health care experts, they were saying that, and they were very also worried about Africa, that they were saying that catastrophe is coming to the Africa now. And then why? Because it's a very crowded cities in Africa, and the poor healthcare system, obviously, and also lack of the testing facilities, because people, they are living in the daily base in the African continent. And even if you have the healthcare facilities, testing facilities, they may not be able to pay for the testing. So how you are going to overcome this testing issue? Reason is that you see, even the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, it was in April, just when started to spread the COVID-19 in the continent, Commission was saying that 300,000 people are going to die, because it was their prediction. But that thing didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So why?
Exactly.
So this is the very special position of the actual African continent in this case of the COVID-19. What about the by now situation in terms of the COVID-19? When we look at the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's data, by now, by the end of the December, 63,000 people died from coronavirus infection.
That's pretty low. That's really low. Yeah.
Yeah. When you compare to, for example, the rest of the world, that is very low. Yeah. Why? It is one into the 500, among the 500 people only. Sure. When you look at the United States, even you see 20. One in the 20 yeah. In the United States.
Yes.
So from that point, also we have to actually think on this COVID-19 issue. Actually, we have to rethink actually COVID-19 issue, because in the African continent every year, all over the world. All over the world, 650,000 people are dying from the malaria.
Yes.
And 450 to 550,000 of them in the African continent. And every year they are dying, over 500,000 people.
It's a big
But
number.
is there anyone speaking about that?
No, that's a bigger health problem.
That is one of the biggest healthcare problem in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But no one is talking about Africa's big problem of the malaria.
So you're saying
It's
these
killing.
acute infections, or because of poor hygiene or other lack of facilities, we have other major issues in Africa, not the rest of the world is battling.
Yes.
And COVID-19 is not as a big problem as United States. From the rates you've given me, it's almost 25 times more frequent in United States
Definitely.
than Africa.
Definitely. And you see, sometimes some experts are saying that there is no real data, etc. You see, by saying that, they don't
or
want
they
to.
say underdiagnosis, things like
they
that.
don't want to understand the situation, but they are forgetting one thing: that Africa has experience in terms of the fighting with these type of pandemics.
That's true.
Such as Ebola. From 2013 to 2016, if you remember, we had in the 3 African countries in the West Africa, they really struggled for the cholera, and that is 500 times more maybe
impacted compared to
killer than the COVID-19. COVID-19 is just normal influenza. You see, it is not like the Ebola virus, but Ebola virus was killing if you touch even to the body of the death. So when Africans, especially in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and and Guinea, they really fought against this Ebola virus, and they knew that how to prepare themselves this type of pandemic.
Excellent.
And second one, this one was they have very low healthcare facilities, very weak healthcare facilities, but they had experience.
I see.
Second thing is the early shutdowns. For example, in South Africa, 63 days, full shutdown happened in the country. But you see, yes, there was the problem. Business were closed, shops closed, and so many people, they lost their jobs. As just I mentioned, that people are living daily base in the African country. Today they earn, today they eat.
Exactly.
So it was very difficult and very tough times. And South African government, they govern, obviously, you see this thing, and they managed, they distribute the food to buy their homes, etc., to the people. But still, for the Africa, that is a problem. But when you compare 2.6 million cases in 10 months' time by now, just 2.6 million cases. That's all. And population is 1.4 billion people are living in the continent. So when you compare that, it is very, very few, and we don't know it is how they managed, but by now, just as I gave only 2 explanation. Reason is that Africa is now, it is not the
old Africa anymore. They are more experienced.
Definitely, they have more experience. And can you imagine if they had that facilities of the healthcare which United States have, how they could manage? Even it was going to be maybe less than this.
That's true.
But still, Africa is in a very good position in terms of COVID-19.
Thank you for the beautiful analysis. From here, I'm curious about the vaccination, ladies and gentlemen, because the other question that I want to ask first, watch the video and then ask to my dear friend Mustafa is, the vaccination, how to vaccinate more than 1.4 billion people. Let's watch the video first and then I'll get to Mustafa.
The race to secure and distribute the COVID-19 vaccine in Africa is on. Most African countries are relying on the COVAX Facility Initiative for access. COVAX has a mandate to buy, allocate, and deliver 2 billion doses of COVID-19 vaccine by the end of 2021. And so far, more than 180 nations have signed up for the COVAX Facility program. These countries are expected to contribute to a pool which will increase their vaccine buying power and guarantee equal access regardless of their economic status. And even though Africa has had relatively low death rates from the coronavirus pandemic, the race for a coronavirus vaccine comes with challenges. Of course it does. The top two COVID-19 vaccines developed by Pfizer and Moderna respectively require much colder storage than a standard medical refrigerator can achieve. Building facilities for such storage is difficult and expensive and out of reach for many African countries. In general, the vaccine rollout is likely to be slower across Africa than in the developed world. Some European countries plan to start in the coming weeks, but in Africa, vaccination may not start until June 2021. The Africa Center for Disease Control says less than a quarter of African countries have adequate plans to raise and distribute the required funding and resources for vaccine rollout. And finally, many Africans are skeptical about vaccines because of occasional cases of vaccine-related outbreaks in some communities. And only 12% of African countries have a communications plan in place to inform their citizens about COVID-19 vaccines. Well, joining us from Nairobi, Kenya is Dr. Amit Taka, Chair of Africa Healthcare Federation. Thank you so much for joining us today. The COVAX initiative is a great idea, but we also have seen countries like Turkey, China, and Russia taking a lead in rolling out their own vaccines. Where is Africa in terms of producing its own vaccine?
We're quite a distance away, and we know why, because we haven't invested in vaccine rollout manufacturing over the last 2, 3, 4 decades. But that doesn't bother us right now. We know that we will pick up our R&D, and when it comes to the next decade, we will be stronger and be ready. So bringing in vaccines from other countries is not a concern for us at all. We've done it for measles, we've done it for other conditions, so I don't think it's a big issue right now for us that it's not made in Africa.
I'll ask you a quick follow-up question to that answer of yours. What about the concerns about storage, about distribution that people have raised, about the fact that it needs to be stored at a certain cold temperature that we don't seem to have the facility to implement?
That's a very good question. And it is our big hope that the new 8 companies that will announce the new vaccines, hopefully some are effective, will be at normal room temperature. So we are actually literally hoping that we get room temperature vaccines coming out sooner than what maybe the global movement and the rush for Pfizer and Moderna will be. And the other thing is, we really don't want to waste too much money in buying something that's 50 or 100 times more expensive than something that could be effective that's much cheaper. So Africa is using its judgment, it's being extremely clever, and we don't have the luxury of spending taxpayers' money or wasting it on something called quick rush when the doors open, lining up for a new iPhone when you can wait a little longer and save more life.
Well, let's talk about funding then. The COVAX facility will not have enough vaccines for all. It could cost at least $3 per dosage, and you know that's 3 days worth of living expenses in some communities. Can it be made more affordable?
Absolutely. The history and science has taught us this question has recurred for several decades. Can it be made cheaper? And always the answer is yes. So let me give you the answer, yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amit Taka, Chair of Africa Healthcare Federation, speaking to us on Africa Matters. And that's Africa Matters. Thanks a lot for watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, there are vaccination technology coming out from Turkey, United States, China, and other developed countries. And Turkey has a very strong vaccination program and already making agreements with Africa, especially nasal vaccine, which is coming from Turkey through nanography, will be one of the key vaccination technologies available for our African brothers and sisters. But regardless of the RNA technology or that vaccine or the nasal vaccine technology coming from Turkey, which is very safe, we will see what Mustafa Efe thinks. I want to get his own opinion in general about vaccination and also about the Africa vaccination strategy. How will they vaccinate 1.4 billion people, Mustafa?
Yeah, actually, first of all, do all people need the vaccination in the continent? Yeah, because when you look at the figures in terms of the COVID-19 spread out, how much spread out in the continent, do they need, first of all? Because some people, they are living in the rural areas, sure, and they are actually not much affected. But in the crowded cities such as Abuja, Lagos, Johannesburg, Dar es Salaam, Addis Ababa,
the capital
Nairobi,
cities.
Yeah, mainly these crowded capital cities. These cities, they might need the vaccination. But on the other hand, in the continent, they have their own traditional cures, etc. They are using at the same time. So besides these the vaccinations, obviously in the continent, as we just also listened, Africans are skeptical about the vaccination.
There is a vaccine hesitancy in general. This is a reality.
It is reality
everywhere in the world
because we don't know that what effects are going to come out after the vaccination.
Sure.
That is normal in terms of the health, health issue. On the other hand, in the continent, these people are skeptical because of these Bill Gates and Melinda foundations, and they run some programs, vaccination programs, which actually they caused more problems in the continent than anything else. Obviously, you see, these
so there is a historical trauma.
Exactly.
And suspicion, a natural suspicion.
They are very suspicious in these
This
issues.
is the African psychology, and also in general.
Yeah,
in the world.
because people, they are living they are looking into their daily lives, and when they see that in their lives, the malaria is killing more than anything else, and still why they are not busy with the malaria issue. And this COVID-19 issue is now, they said that mutated
from United Kingdom.
From United Kingdom, COVID-20. Now, just before the end of ending the 2020, they invented the COVID-20 as well. So yes, obviously that is the virus. Virus is mutating always, and that mutation is you can see in any type of the virus. So, and also if it is the vaccination is going to happen, that vaccination must be very trustful, and people must trust in. Otherwise, they are not going to be accepted and successful. If they need to get the vaccine. That vaccination vaccine must be trusted one. And also in some African scholars, they are very skeptical also in terms of these mRNA vaccines. You see, those are because it is dealing with, it is going to come and to catch to the RNAs of the people. So it is going to be with you after that, and also it is going to, you are going to inherit to your generations. Also, that is going to be another issue and danger. Maybe we don't know what's going to happen. But on the other hand, these inactive vaccines, such as Turkey, what is busy
Yes.
with that one. Reason is that you see it took quite long time for Turkey to invent or to get this vaccine by now in the laboratories. We hope that is when it comes out to this vaccine, as President Erdogan
Yes.
addressed to the whole world, and even at the UN meeting also, President Erdogan declared that when we invented this vaccine, when we manufactured and when we produced this vaccine, definitely we are going to share with all over the world,
Sure.
especially to these underdeveloped. I don't want to say the underdeveloped, but especially these
Developing countries.
The developing countries, such as in Africa, in African countries, Middle Eastern countries,
Sure.
and some South Asian countries as well. Reason is that as President Erdogan declared that we are going to share this experience to overcome this COVID-19 pandemic.
To your point, dear Mustafa, I think Turkey has supported more than 150 countries during the pandemic with
Exactly.
personal protective masks and guns, and
Yes.
then people were just focusing on their own situations. Turkey, as a great nation, has supported the entire brothers and sisters in Africa, as well as even Europe, even United States, even China, even Africa, everywhere.
Yeah.
So this hopefully is an example of brotherhood in humanity. And I hope, as you said, of course there is vaccine hesitancy, but they should make a judgment by their own safety and efficacy and make a decision. But I can tell my African brothers that from Turkey, there is a very important technology coming for nasal vaccine, which has very limited side effect. Of course, we'll see the results, and then maybe
Yes.
in future programs, we'll make an informed decision with comparison. But with that, at the end, we need to focus on the major issues of Africa, not just COVID-19. I agree with you. And based on what the issues are, that has to be dealt with.
Definitely.
I want to thank you again. We will go for a commercial break. And after commercial break, we will talk about the top 5 moments of 2020,
yes.
and then we'll continue with the elections in Africa, as well as very interesting topics that are continuing.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time. I have Mustafa Efe from the African Strategic Studies Center, which is one of the best in Turkey. And we will continue with very interesting topic. Stay tuned to live to NTR TV with your senior anchorman, Yavuz Selim Sılay. We will continue shortly. Thank you very much. Take care and all the best. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to NTR TV, broadcasting to more than 900 million viewers across more than 40 countries in Africa. I am now ready to show you the 5 top moments that defined 2020. Let's check it out, shall we?
Last night, at my direction, the United States military successfully executed a flawless precision strike that killed the #1 terrorist anywhere in the world, Qasem Soleimani.
We're deeply concerned both by the alarming levels of spread and severity and by the alarming levels of inaction. We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
Please, I can't breathe. Please, man. Please, man. My stomach hurts. My neck hurts. Everything hurts.
Let's give each other a chance. It's time to put away the harsh rhetoric, lower the temperature, see each other again, listen to each other again.
After talking about these top 5 events, I want to focus on a very important topic. Turkey-Africa relationship actually improved in 2020. Since this is a television broadcasting here from Ankara, let's check out our colleagues, what they prepared at TRT World, and I'll get to Mustafa Efe. Shall we?
Turkey is making investments in countries on the African continent in a bid to develop a mutually beneficial relationship. It's part of Ankara's plan to diversify economic interests away from the Middle East and Europe. What's in it for all sides? This is Turkey in Africa, Decoded. Turkey is among the world's leading producers of textiles, automotive parts, and construction materials. As a G20 member state, Turkey's largest trading partners have traditionally been European Union members and these other countries. But behind the scenes, Ankara has been busy courting countries on the African continent. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan wants trade between Turkey and Africa to reach $50 billion by 2025. Now, this might seem an ambitious target given the current trade volume, but Erdogan might be onto something. In 2003, Turkey had a trade volume of $5.5 billion with African countries. By 2019, Turkey was trading with $26.2 billion. Now, these numbers have dropped to around $20 billion this year due to the coronavirus pandemic. One of the reasons for Turkey's interest in Africa? Well, Ankara sees a major reorientation of its economic and political interests in the past decade away from traditional power centers, for example, in Egypt. This has created space for Turkey to carve out new partnerships across Africa. Where in Tripoli, Turkey has supported the UN-backed government of National Accord against the UAE-backed Khalifa Haftar. So how has Turkey gone about building its relationships in Africa, you might ask? Following a somewhat similar approach to China's. We recently heard Turkey's Minister for Trade use the term win-win, a firm favorite saying associated with China's engagement strategy in Africa as part of its One Belt, One Road initiative. Whereas China is cultivating new ties, Turkey is relying on its Ottoman past to gain new business access in Africa. Turkey has prioritized aid distribution and capacity building as well as vocational training, building schools and hospitals. For example, in Mogadishu, Somalia, Ankara renovated a 200-bed training and research hospital constructed by TIKA, Turkey's International Development Authority. Turkish soldiers are also training a 20,000-strong Somali National Army at a sizable military facility on the outskirts of Mogadishu. Now, how do I know this? Well, I traveled to Somalia and met Somali officers who spoke perfect Turkish. Turkish firms now operate Mogadishu's air and seaports, and Turkish Airlines flies to the city with a stopover in Eritrea. It's not just military matters Turkey is engaged in. It is looking to expand its ties post-pandemic into areas such as e-commerce, agriculture, and construction. Because countries in Africa with a history of Western imperialism might be a new frontier for the Chinese ripe for exploitation, Turkey has the benefit of time and of hindsight, of being connected to Africa by faith, and a belief in a shared future on equal terms. Let us know what you think on our YouTube channel, and I'm on Twitter at Ali_Mustafa. Turkey is making investments.
Thanks to Recep Tayyip Erdogan's amazing vision, clearly Turkey has jumped over the years and now heading for a $50 billion goal. And I have with Mustafa Efe, an amazing leader who can analyze the strategy in Africa. Mustafa, what is Turkey's strategy in Africa?
Turkey's strategy in Africa is we can see from economical perspective, political perspective, and obviously from the cultural perspective, from the three dimensions. First one, from the economical perspective, we can say win-win strategy, as President Recep Tayyip Erdogan described. Yes. This is the main philosophy of economical relations based, yes, based on win-win strategy. So, by now, because when we look at Africa has been exploited by the European powers almost 600 years I don't want to go in deeply into the colonial history, but Africans has not seen any country such as today what Turkey is actually approaching to them.
Sure.
That is the first one, economically. Secondly, politically, Africa has 54 countries, and it has a power in the also United States, although they don't have any seat in the United States,
Sure.
which they must struggle. They must fight for these seats also at the UN by using the African Union, because as President Recep Tayyip Erdogan brought into the world as a motto, the world is bigger than five.
Absolutely.
All the African countries, politically, they are in the side of this motto also. Thirdly is the culturally what relations are actually we are currently Turkey is building with the African countries. Turkish Maarif Foundation, via Turkish Maarif Foundation, schools are opening across the African continent,
Yes.
and also Turkish Development Agency.
Yes.
They are having the really amazing programs all over the African continent, and in terms of the building for developmental developmental programs which they are running, building the orphanages, building the schools,
That's very important.
opening the boreholes. Also, not only the Turkish Development Agency, enormous number of the NGOs, they are operating all over the African continent, and also in terms of education, thousands of the African students are studying in Turkey under the Turkish scholarship programs.
Yes.
With different institutions. When we look at the students in terms of the education, in the high school, very limited numbers, but in the at the universities, for undergraduate, masters and doctorate programs, almost 20,000 students are there studying.
That's
They
amazing.
are going to rebuild Africa without having any colonial approach.
Like
That
in
is the Turkish
Somalia,
strategy.
like in
That
Somalia,
is Somalia,
right?
yes.
The
yeah,
Minister in
Somalia.
Justice
Minister
was
of Justice
being
is-
welcomed by Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
Exactly, and he studied in Turkey. Also, we have so many other also students who graduated in Turkey. Now they are serving to their home countries,
true,
which is their Turkey's strategy is the all the solutions to the problems of Africa is the African solution.
Excellent. This is very important. Also in media, similar to NTR TV, thanks to your support as well, we are building Somalian Turkish TV
Yes.
from here, and also many radios from South Africa, Ghana is also coming soon. So on the media side also with TRT World and NTR TV, many more initiatives and radios are coming. So on the economic, on the social, on the political, and on the trade side and media, many more will come. I want to thank you for your support.
Still, we expecting more
Yes.
because also we expecting from the African countries.
Yes.
From their side also, we have to see this willingness of the increase in the cooperation, because maybe in some countries we don't. Some of our companies, they did not have any relations yet.
Sure.
For example, some maybe still we don't have the embassy, which is very few, but almost only 12 African countries left without a Turkish embassy right now, and also we expecting from those countries because they need. You see, they don't definitely they don't need only these European powers the assistance or European powers helping out them. Also, they should be aware of that Chinese involvement in the African continent as well.
Sure.
And now, if we also just saw now what Chinese minister also saying that win-win policy also China is following.
Similar
now.
to Turkey. Yeah.
Similar to Turkey. But no, you see, they just newly started to express these views to the media. Why? Because unfortunately, Chinese involvement, Africans must be very aware of it. Chinese involvement in the African continent is very decisive.
I see.
Because Africans are thinking that only Chinese are not the ex-colonial powers. So we could have the relations. But just look at the Zambian experience, what happened. Almost just only 10 years ago, in each and every single Chinese, they could go to the Zambia, and at the border they just get the stamp to the passport and they could enter the country. But Chinese companies, Chinese construction companies, for example, while they are building, the workers of Africa, their behavior was very bad to the African workers, and they treated badly. And what happened? Zambian government kicked them out. So many of them. And also Chinese companies, they are bringing the prisoners to work in their construction, mainly big construction projects. They are not employing from the locals. So it is not helping them actually to reduce the unemployment rate also in the African continent.
I want to thank you. From here, we should do another program about this matter.
Yes.
I want to move to Black Lives Matter right now. Let's check a quick video about Black Lives Matter movement.
The killing of George Floyd by a police officer in the state of Minnesota on May 25th unleashed a new wave of protests across the United States, which quickly spread around the world. The protests were part of a growing movement known as Black Lives Matter. Millions of people have voluntarily acted as one, taking collective action against the state. So how did the BLM go from a hashtag to the center of political contentions in the United States? And what role has the US government played in shaping the movement? Is taking a knee taking a stand, or is it treason as viewed by some in the Trump administration? I'm Ali Mustafa, and this is Black Lives Movement Decoded. It's 2012, and the fatal shooting of African-American teenager Trayvon Martin by a white man sparks protests across the United States. A year and a half later, that night watchman George Zimmerman is acquitted of second-degree murder and manslaughter. In the aftermath of the ruling, the Black Lives Matter hashtag is born. The movement spread quickly in the following years with the killings of even more black men. But it's not until 2020, 7 years on, that BLM becomes a contentious issue in the center of the political narrative. So how did the BLM movement go about it? Well, it starts with collective action, when BLM activists start making claims of the government to end what they say is institutional racism, police brutality, and the unjust treatment of minorities. And the numbers, well, they speak for themselves. Black men are 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white men in the United States. Black women, 1.5 times more likely to be killed than their white counterparts. African Americans represented 24% of all people killed by police in 2019, despite making only 13% of the US population. So there is a problem. But is BLM an effective solution? Well, it comes down to a few things you might not have considered. For example, the size of the groups leading the movement. Some economists calculated the effective size at not more than 7 people. Members of these groups link up with 7 others to create so-called intermediate groups. These in turn tap into people sympathetic to a cause, in this case, BLM. So what BLM shows then is that small groups of people can voluntarily organize to put pressure on the state. But if a movement survives or not depends on the opportunities a state provides. On June 23rd, police tear-gassed protesters outside the White House to make way for Donald Trump to have his picture taken in front of the St. John's Episcopal Church holding up the Bible. It was meant to show nonviolent protesters who was in charge, to send a clear message: the state will not stay silent when challenged. So the success or failure of a movement such as the BLM is effectively shaped by the state's response. If a state is open to negotiate, peaceful protests are enough to open dialogue. But if the state decides to use the stick, an opportunity arises for the movement to also turn violent. If the 60s civil rights movement helped African Americans see their relationship with their government differently, what outcomes will the BLM movement have in claiming a new social contract with authority? And activists say it's urgently needed because of the 8,264 police-related killings in the United States since 2013, only 1% of the officers involved have been charged. To change this, those in power must be more considerate of the BLM's claims. Black lives do certainly matter, but in the US, power matters more. That's all from Decoded this week. You'll find us 24/7 on YouTube. Reach out to me with your questions and comments, or if you'd like something decoded, I'm at Ali_Mustafa on Twitter. See you next time.
Thank you very much. Decoded really wrapped up very well. Mustafa, what do you think of the BLM, Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, you see, Black Lives Matter is decentralized, political and social movements, you see, advocating the non-violence civil obedience in the protest against incidents of the police brutality and racially also motivated, and the violence against black people, which is African descendant of the American citizens. And you see, just we have to look at the situation as a moment like this, but we have to look at the situation also to the history of the African people in the United States to understand today's situation and why they are experiencing still in this country. And also, when we look at the history of the people, of the ethnic structure of the United States, African Americans are actually settled to the American soil than the whites of America even.
I see.
Because in the 15th century, when the slavery started by the Spain and the Portugal, and they carried out almost 56,000 voyages, and numbers are actually differs from 12 million to the 90 million to 100 million people have been taken away and have been enslaved by these European powers.
I remember watching Kunta Kinte movie, for example.
Exactly. Why? That small kids, why it is scary when they see the white man? Because
it's a trauma in their conscience, right?
Yeah, still. Yeah. Because in the elderlies in the country, they were narrating about the stories how their ancestors, they have been captured white men and enslaved and taken away from African continent to the New World.
And many died during the journey.
That is very bleeding story. It is Mr. Salaya. That is bleeding story. You know what's happening? Today I paid a visit so many slave destinations, slave ports, in the African continent, such as in Ghana, Elmina and Cape Coast, Elmina, and in the Benin, also in Senegal, Gore Island, you know, there was a exit. In that exit, it looks like the vodka glass.
I see.
They built like that, these Europeans. And when they go out, these slaves, they have been taken with the small boats to the big ships in the ocean, in the Atlantic Ocean. From there, they have been taken away. They were actually keeping the slaves by putting the palm oil on their bodies, etc. They were feeding and not to die. But on the way, they were just putting them like the spoon, putting one side.
Back to back, yeah.
Back to
it's
back.
like a package.
Like the package. And after that, they were dying on the way. You know what they were doing? Even when any one of them had sick, just they were separating, but they were not trying to cure in the ship. They don't want to be busy.
But they don't want the disease to spread. That's why
but
they're
they
just
don't
separating.
want.
They want to protect the rest.
Yes, yes. And after that, if
as if it is like a good, not human, you know.
No, according to these Europeans, African people when African people has been enslaved, it has been seen as a just material, just as a commodity how it has been taken.
Horrible.
And when they died in the ship, you know what? They were just throwing away into the ocean. And these sharks, when they see that human flesh is there, they were eating. And they got used to this habit, these sharks. And even, you know, stories are saying that when the ship arrives into America's ports, in even the Haiti, etc., behind the ships, just you could see the shark army. It's coming behind.
Like a big crew coming all
A
together.
very big crew of the sharks. Why? They were expecting
more
human death bodies.
This is horrible.
And that is horrible history, you see. And it is not finishing. When they arrive there to the New World, also they have been taken into the plantations. You see, it is African people's tear and blood has been used to build this new world in the Americas, north or south, doesn't matter. And what happened in the United States? The slavery became institutionalized.
Yes.
And after that, unfortunately, especially Jewish slave sellers, they had the money, they were buying and they were selling there. But who were carrying these Spanish and Portuguese? Later, obviously, British and French and British as well, they carried. And what happened in America, they had a quite high number of the African people. And you know, this industrial revolution, etc., when it happened, anymore, it is so many things. They start to use the machines to harvest these in the plantations. After that, they don't need.
Okay.
What is it? They abolished the slavery.
Then the North-South war happened.
North-South war happened about the slavery because they did not agree about the slavery. That so many issues happened. But what happened? After the United States of America established, still African people had no place.
I see.
And you know what Montgomery bus case, you know that, and also
Rosa Parks,
Salmas, Volk, and
Malcolm X,
and plus Martin Luther King's killing, and Malcolm X, how Malik el-Shahbaz actually is Muhammad Ali Clay. And all these figures, they had a bad face of this modern imperialist face of the United States. And you see, United States of America always advising the democracy, etc., to the world. But unfortunately, in the African people, I don't want to say the black people because I don't want to use as a black people. Obviously, Black Lives Matter is because intentionally it has been invented. But African people has been classified as a second-class citizen in the United States, and still this thing is continued. Don't look at, you see, why.
So you're saying
Barack Obama,
racism is still institutionalized. They're not able to get rid of it, despite all these anti-discrimination. Like I worked in the United States, we get so many trainings against discrimination, but still we see George Floyd and many similar people, lives passed away. You know, so there is still racism. Unfortunately,
and although you see, look at the Barack Obama, they have been advertised. He has been actually advertised as an African president, etc. It is not. You see, he was the colored person.
I see.
But although like that, that was the good progress for the United States. You see, to overcome or to remove the trace of the racism from the community. But it didn't happen because this superiority of the white man, it has been institutionalized, and in their mind, this perspective still shaping the society. Second thing is the new president, Biden, vice president of the Kamala Harris. Also, he is the Indian origin, but he's is very racist person. And unfortunately, from these Indians, also from the caste system in the India, it is shaping their mentality. And this vice president, very racist person, and America is going to face bigger problems in terms of the racism in this under this new administration.
Thank you. We have 20 more minutes. Let's look at the video about Ghana and Gambia elections.
Thank you.
Ghanaian President John Mahama has admitted defeat following Wednesday's presidential elections. He called his opponent, Nana Akufo-Addo, to concede the presidency. The country's Electoral Commission confirmed the results just minutes after Mahama tweeted about the call. According to the commission, Akufo-Addo won with an outright majority.
I make this solemn pledge to you tonight. I will not let you down. And will do all in my power to live up to your hopes and expectations.
Let's get more on the story and speak to Brennan Wace, who is live in Accra for us. Brennan, good to see you. So tell us a bit about the new president-to-be and a little bit about this election process.
Sure. So about 8 p.m. local time here in Ghana, it was announced by the country's Electoral Commission, which is the independent body that oversees and facilitates public elections in Ghana. That Electoral Commission announced that Nana Akufo-Addo, who is running his third contest, he ran back in 2008 and 2012 and lost both. But third time's a charm, and he won the race this year by a pretty substantial margin. He won by over 1 million votes, about 53.8 percentage points versus the incumbent President Mahama's 44.4%. And I think that was shocking to the media, to Ghanaians, to the international community, because Ghana is known for having really closely fought races, especially after 2008, which went into a runoff after no candidate had declared a clear majority. And then in 2012, a match against Mahama and Nana Akufo-Addo. Akufo-Addo contested the results, alleging fraud, and there was a months-long court battle at the Supreme Court to determine the winner. And so there was really Nana Akufo-Addo won this year with a clear mandate and going forward, and I think that represents well the progress and the gains that democracy in Ghana has made.
And what does the outcome mean for the country going forward?
I didn't catch the end of your question.
So what comes next for the country? What are the challenges for the new president?
Yeah, so the main wedge issue of the campaign was the economy. In 2011, Ghana was the fastest growing economy, not only in Africa, but in the world. And, after 2010, the country started producing oil for the first time. And so there was a lot of optimism in the country and among Ghanaians for better economic prospects. But a lot of those promises and that feeling of optimism never came to fruition. That optimism dissipated, and global commodity prices started to decline, which really hurt Ghana, which is really dependent on its exports of gold, cocoa, oil. And a lot of Ghanaians felt like they weren't reaping the benefits of the government boost in revenues that they got from this oil production. And so they blamed the government for that, and there's been high employment levels, high inflation, high debt levels, and so the new president will have to contend with all these challenges to provide Ghanaians with jobs, to continue to boost infrastructure, and to keep the morale up in a country that has really been down as their economy has slowed.
Okay, Brennan, many thanks for talking us through all that. Brennan Weiss there for us in Accra. Now from Ghana to Gambia, which has also held an election in the last week and was also looking to be on a path to a peaceful transition of power. But the country's ruler of more than 22 years has now announced that he no longer accepts defeat in the country's presidential election. Yahya Jammeh's latest move comes a week after conceding defeat and congratulating the incoming president Adama Barrow. He says the elections were marred by abnormalities and has now called for fresh elections. President Jammeh has been in power for 22 years and has been seeking a 5th term in office.
From Ghana and Gambia, let's move to Ghana-Turkey relations in 2020, shall we?
Hailed as West Africa's golden child, it's one of the continent's great success stories. But the ride has not always been smooth. A major energy crisis between 2012 and 2015 had a devastating impact on Ghana's economy. Power outages became so unbearable, it forced the government to seek outside help. In stepped the Turkish-built billion-dollar Car Powership, a 450-megawatt floating power plant, which is generating a quarter of Ghana's electricity requirements. There's also Aksar Energy, which built a 370-megawatt thermal power plant, supplying another 10% of Ghana's energy needs. Murat Chapto, the regional director of Aksar Energy, says the joint project came just in time and helped bring an end to the electricity shortage. But it's not just the energy sector that needs attention. Ghana is moving to upgrade its underdeveloped transportation network. Enter the new Terminal 3 at the Kotoka International Airport. Price tag, nearly $250 million. Turkish construction company MAPA won the contract to design and rebuild the terminal. Now completed, it has the capacity to handle 5 million passengers annually, more than double the capacity of the old airport. Okan Doğan, the project manager of MAPA, says the new airport terminal will not only have a lasting impact on the country's transport network, it is helping train a new generation of highly skilled workers, especially in construction. With the increased passenger capacity, officials in Ghana are hopeful that their country can become a new regional air hub.
We think the vision to become the hub in the West African sub-region is fairly well on course. We expect that we would attract more airlines into our country.
And Turkey's investments are helping Ghana reach that goal. Ghana is one of Turkey's largest and fastest growing trade partners in Africa. Over the last 5 years, Turkey's investments have increased to more than $500 million from $190 million. And with close to 200 Turkish businesses operating in the country, trade ties are expected to strengthen further. But Turkey's outreach isn't just about building infrastructure.
Turkey has this enterprising and humanitarian foreign policy, so we are having a number of programs trying to assist African countries. It's not only that we are after trade, we are also here to help people with their needs and meet their expectations, and this is a win-win situation for both sides, Turkey and Africa.
And then there is the project that's leaving a cultural footprint on a vast scale. Even from a distance, you can't miss Accra's new mosque. The Ghana National Mosque in the center of Ghana's capital has a design that is distinctly Turkish. Once complete, it will accommodate up to 10,000 worshippers in an area of 4,000 square meters. It's part of a complex being created by the Human Development Association International, or HUDAI, which will also house a cultural center, a hospital, and a school. Salman Ospunar is the general coordinator of HUDAI. He says it's not just a mosque for Muslims, but a complex that will have facilities that provide services to everyone.
This is the largest mosque in West Africa. We brought Turkish engineers and architects to design the mosque, and most of the materials are from Turkey. It is a place of worship for Muslims, but we will have facilities that will be catered for all Ghanaians.
Turkish interests in Ghana are just a representation of Ankara's growing relationship with Africa over the past decade. Turkey now has 40 embassies in Africa compared to only 12 in 2008. And it's not only about business, it's about sustainable development and a shared future. Omar Kablan, Straight Talk.
Thank you, Omer. It's really good coverage of Ghana-Turkey relations. From Ghana, let's move to Tanzania, shall we?
For almost 6 decades, Tanzania has been ruled by one party, the Chama cha Mapinduzi. But it hasn't been known for committing human rights abuses. That wasn't until they got a new president. This man, John Magufuli, he came to power in 2015, promised to clean up corruption and strengthen the economy. But since his arrival, opposition politicians have been arrested, government critics have gone missing, and there's been a crackdown against the LGBT community. Several nations have withdrawn aid, and the EU has condemned Tanzania for its abuses. Well, to discuss this, we have Tito Magoti in Dar es Salaam. He's an activist with the Legal and Human Rights Center. And in Washington, D.C. is Abdulaziz Sachedina. He's a professor of Islamic Studies at George Mason University. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Tito, let me start with you. Is there a witch hunt against gay people in Tanzania right now?
Actually, no, because that was a campaign which actually was initiated by a governor in Dar es Salaam. But apparently the government issued a statement that there is no movement like a national movement for hunting down those kind of people, hunting them down in a way that they are going to be attacked or put under scrutiny. The Minister for Foreign Affairs confirmed that that move is not initiated by the government. So precisely there is no such a movement. But
in the morning, in the afternoon, especially at night, not free to walk around. You'll be scared of police. Chain I'm wearing, there's a meaning to this chain. You are living in bondage. We are not free in our own country.
Nigerians like Terry Murphy are outraged and fed up over police brutality by the Special Anti-Robbery Squad known as SARS. The infamous unit has long been accused of unlawful arrests, torture, and murder.
Killing our boyfriends, stop killing our children, stop!
Protests began last week after the video of a man allegedly being killed by SARS went viral earlier this month. This is footage from 2014 showing a young man being hit by armed policemen. It's abuse like this that protesters want to stop. For years, SARS has been accused of harassing and extorting money from young Nigerians, especially those who are well-dressed and seen in expensive cars. Almost everyone has a story.
I'm a woman. I come back at night. Police will tell me that when I get money to buy my vehicle, they'll call me prostitute. We cannot do that. I work too hard for my money, man.
The country's head of police, Mohammed Adamu, has tried to placate the protesters by saying he's heard their chants.
The Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigerian Police, otherwise known as SARS, is hereby dissolved.
President Buhari followed with a tweet.
the disbanding of SARS is only the first step in our commitment to extensive police reforms.
But the dissolution of SARS comes with a catch. Officers will be redeployed to other police units. For the past week, the hashtag #EndSARS has been trending online. It's become more than just about SARS. Demonstrators are calling for change across the entire Nigerian police force. They also want justice and compensation for the victims of police brutality, the creation of an independent body to oversee allegations of abuse, and psychological evaluations for former SARS officers before they are redeployed to other police units. The fight against excessive force may not be over yet. Demonstrators are being dispersed using tear gas, water cannons, and live ammunition. Amnesty International has said at least 10 protesters have been killed so far. The SARS unit was set up in 1992 to tackle armed robbery and violent crimes. At the time, officers weren't in uniforms and operated as a faceless 15-member security team. Anonymity was considered vital for their work. As the police unit grew, so did their power. They became brutal. Many Nigerians saw SARS as a replica of the very groups they were meant to tackle. A report by Amnesty International documented 82 cases of SARS mistreating, torturing, and executing detainees from January 2017 to May 2020. People across the country are aching for change. This is the fourth year the government has promised to reform or shut down the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. So, what's different this time? Is this really a new chapter for police reform in Nigeria and a victory for people's power? Tierney Bonini, The Newsmakers.
Nigeria is a very important nation. From Nigeria, anti-SARS protests. What do you think? Can you just summarize in the next 60 seconds for us?
Yeah. You see, Nigeria is one of the most important countries in the African continent, as always we mentioned. You see, Nigerian government repeatedly, actually also previous governments, they said that they promised that to investigate the SARS, and because there was reports of the impunity and the lack of accountability about the SARS. And the government also in that time, they promised that to disband actually to this unit, and when some reports prepared, but they did not keep their promise, and people started to protest. And these protesters demanding just the accountability from government and want to end to this violence and against them. Just they should demonstrate, they should protest against the SARS unit. That's all. And obviously also they want also to end the practice of this bribery and corruption in the country, because corruption is killing the economy of Nigeria as well.
Thank you, Mustafa. I want to appreciate your comment. Now, I want to finish this year with all these serious things with something fun.
Okay.
We have great friends.
Yes.
You know, COVID-19 taught us also happiness with Animal Kingdom.
Yes.
Let's watch a little bit about the Animal Kingdom and learn from the animals, shall we?
Thank you.
I would say with this beautiful video, with my dear colleague Mustafa Efe, bring on 2021. Yavuz Sılay and Mustafa Efe will continue at NTR TV. And we wish you a wonderful, happy new year. And I hope everything will be much better. All I'm asking is stay tuned to NTR TV every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Turkish time and 1 p.m. African time, live at NTR TV. Thank you very much. Take care and all the best. Wishing you a wonderful and beautiful year in 2021.